Welcome to Have You Read It? The channel where we bring books to life, one summary at a time. Whether you're here for self-help, personal growth, or business inspiration, there's something for everyone. Today, we're diving into John Kay's insightful critique of modern business thinking. The corporation in the 21st century. Why almost everything we are told about business is wrong. Get ready to challenge some widely held beliefs about how businesses operate and what truly drives their success. Kay kicks off his book by highlighting a growing paradox. We love the products of modern business, but increasingly distrust the corporations that produce them. He uses the example of Goldman Sachs, a premier investment bank facing a lawsuit over its ethical claims, and Boeing, whose safety assurances after the 737 MAX crashes proved misleading. This sets the stage for his central argument. The language we use to describe business hasn't kept pace with the dramatic changes in how businesses actually operate. The traditional model of the firm, rooted in the Industrial Revolution, emphasizes capital and labor as the primary factors of production. Kay argues this is no longer accurate. Modern businesses like Apple and Google thrive on collective knowledge and collective intelligence, not massive factories and assembly lines. These capabilities, he suggests, are what drive real value creation. Kay examines the pharmaceutical industry as a case study. He traces its evolution from the era of snake oil salesmen to the scientific breakthroughs of antibiotics and vaccines. While acknowledging the industry's immense contributions, he also exposes its ethical failings, particularly the pursuit of profit over patient welfare, as seen in the examples of Valiant Pharmaceuticals and Purdue Pharma. This highlights the tension between stakeholder capitalism and shareholder primacy, a theme that recurs throughout the book. To understand the modern corporation, Kay takes us on a historical journey through the evolution of business. He discusses the rise of manufacturing, the assembly line, and the corporation itself. He traces the shift from owner-controlled businesses to manager-controlled ones, a trend exemplified by figures like Alfred Sloan of General Motors. Kay highlights the growing separation between ownership and control, a key factor in understanding the motivations and behaviors of modern executives. Examining the Fortune 500 list from 1955 to 2020, Kay demonstrates the transient nature of corporate dominance. Once powerful giants like General Motors and U.S. Steel have declined or been overtaken by companies like Toyota and Nucor. This illustrates Kay's point that size and scale are not guarantees of success in the 21st century. The decline of traditional manufacturing further reinforces his argument about the changing nature of business. We now live in a world where value is created by innovation and knowledge, not just by producing physical goods. Kay argues that the secret to our economic success lies in our ability to get better at almost everything, from running faster to growing better apples. This improvement, he explains, is driven by the accumulation of collective knowledge and its transformation into collective intelligence. He uses the development of commercial aviation, from the Wright brothers to the Airbus A380, as a prime example of this process. A core concept in Kay's analysis is economic rent, the return earned by individuals, places, or organizations due to their unique and difficult-to-replicate capabilities. He uses the contrasting examples of Lionel Messi and Stanley Matthews, two football stars from different eras, to illustrate how economic rents have grown dramatically in the modern era. This, he argues, is because competition for talent and capabilities has intensified, and the rents accrue to those who possess the most valuable and distinctive skills or combinations of skills. In the latter half of the 20th century, a philosophy of individualism took hold, influencing both political theory and business practice. This coincided with the rise of the shareholder value movement, which asserted that the primary purpose of a corporation was to maximize returns for its shareholders. Kay argues that this narrow focus on shareholder value led to a degradation of business ethics and a disconnect between businesses and the societies they operate in. Kay challenges the notion that shareholders are the true owners of a corporation. He cites legal cases in the UK demonstrating that shareholders own shares, not the company itself. He argues that the concept of ownership is more complex than simply holding shares, and that the rights traditionally associated with ownership are often dispersed among various stakeholders. Examining corporate law in different jurisdictions, Kay finds that there's no clear legal mandate for shareholder primacy. He notes that while some, particularly U.S. courts, have leaned towards shareholder priority, other jurisdictions, like Germany, explicitly embrace a stakeholder model. The UK, he suggests, occupies a middle ground. Kay critiques the practical application of the shareholder value doctrine. He identifies leaky pipes and overflowing sewage syndrome, where companies cut essential investments to boost short-term profits, often with damaging long-term consequences. He also criticizes earnings management, the practice of manipulating accounting figures to create the illusion of consistent growth. These practices, he argues, are encouraged by executive remuneration schemes tied to stock prices and short-term earnings. The rise of modern finance, with its emphasis on transactions and fees, played a significant role in the shareholder value movement. Kay discusses the evolution of finance, from traditional bank lending to venture capital, securitization, and the growth of financial conglomerates. He critiques the frenzy of mergers and acquisitions that characterized the late 20th and early 21st centuries, arguing that most deals destroy value rather than create it. He uses examples like the AOL-Time Warner merger and the RBS takeover of ABN AMRO to illustrate the pitfalls of deal-making driven by financial engineering and executive egos. Kay provides detailed accounts of the decline of once iconic companies like ICI, GEC, General Electric, Sears, Marks & Spencer, Boeing, IBM, and Deutsche Bank. He argues that these companies lost their way by prioritizing financial metrics over long-term value creation, often through excessive cost-cutting, misguided diversification, and a focus on short-term earnings. This finance curse, as he calls it, ultimately harmed not just shareholders, but all stakeholders. In contrast to the nexus of contracts view, Kay suggests that successful 21st century corporations are cooperative communities defined by their distinctive capabilities. He discusses the importance of clusters, like Silicon Valley and Meta, where collective intelligence thrives. He emphasizes the need for trust and cooperation within and between organizations, highlighting the concept of relational contracts. Kay explores the changing role of capital in the modern economy. He describes how businesses increasingly purchase capital as a service, renting warehouses, leasing equipment, and outsourcing manufacturing. This, he argues, further weakens the traditional link between capital ownership and control of business. He questions who the capitalists are in this new landscape. He identifies a diverse group, from business founders and executives to rentiers, banks, venture capitalists, and even influencers. He suggests that with the broad distribution of wealth through mechanisms like pension funds and home ownership, we are all capitalists now. Finally, Kay introduces the concepts of intangible assets: human capital, social capital, and natural capital. While acknowledging their importance, he cautions against overusing the term capital and trying to quantify everything. He emphasizes the limitations of trying to measure things like social capital and natural capital, suggesting that such efforts often lead to misleading results. Kay concludes by suggesting that we need to move beyond the outdated language and models of traditional capitalism. He argues that the 21st century corporation is fundamentally different, driven by collective intelligence, adaptability, and a focus on meeting the needs of all stakeholders. He calls for a more nuanced and realistic understanding of business, one that embraces ambiguity and recognizes the complex interplay of factors that drive success. So, what are the main takeaways from The Corporation in the 21st Century? Business is about capabilities, not just capital. The modern corporation thrives on collective intelligence and the ability to adapt, not just on owning physical assets. Focus on the long term. Short-term financial engineering and cost-cutting can be detrimental to long-term value creation. Stakeholders matter. Successful businesses recognize the importance of all stakeholders, not just shareholders. Embrace ambiguity. The world is complex and uncertain. Don't be afraid of nuance, and don't try to force everything into neat categories. Thanks for watching. Have you read it? Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you never miss our next book dive.